I wanted to add, so I'm thinking about buying a car next year, and I wanted to.
Yeah, cars.
I like so I like the Cybertruck. I'm thinking about getting a Cybertruck. That's what I wanted to see. I wanted to see your reaction, whether it was that or it was, oh yeah, and I think I got my answer already. So
you need that cyber.
So if it's not the Cybertruck, here are my other like thoughts. Like
yeah,
probably a high end Camaro or Mustang.
Okay. Look, my recommendation is to start with a vehicle that is based in reality, Earth.
Okay.
I would not start with a fantasy movie prop that is not actually a real vehicle that can be built. So while I have no problem with the cars that Tesla builds and sells and that you can show up and buy and drive, I've driven them all. I think they all are fun in their own way. I think they make EVs cool and they look good and they do most of what they're advertised, with the exception of full self-driving, which of course is nowhere near that. But I don't believe that the Cybertruck can be built as it looks in the concept phase. Certainly not if it is going to be sold in Europe, and if he really thinks he's going to build a new vehicle from scratch and not sell it globally, he's an idiot.
You know, they shrunk it a little bit. Did you hear that?
Look, I think he operates that company by, here's a fucking crazy idea. Now engineers go figure out how to make crazy idea work.
Steve Jobs style. Yeah.
Occasionally those ideas are fun and whimsical and yield fun cars. And I think, but those ideas are what drive the hype of Tesla and the sale of stock, which is really the sale of stock and not the sale of cars is why Tesla is valued where it is. Okay. And so unfortunately their hype machine needs to keep going. And so I don't believe, and maybe I'll be wrong, but I've said it a bunch of places, but I don't believe that the movie prop Cybertruck you saw on stage that he smashed the fucking window with, which is one of the greatest videos of all time. I don't think what you would see if they do make a pickup truck, and call it Cybertruck, it's not really going to look anything like that. And so I would take a very wait and see approach, and I would not plan any car buying decisions based on availability of that vehicle.
So why do you think the Cybertruck won't be made?
There's a reason that cars don't really look like that right now, and the reason is typically is regulatory.
Part of it is just consumer resistance, right?
Consumer resistance. Well, first off, you can't build a car that's an exoskeleton like that, where the whole body is just because of how
unibody cars, though, right? Like
there's unibody. No, unibody is different. We're not. Okay. He's not talking about unibody. He's talking about where the body is the structure. And it's not. It will not meet, first off, the Euro pedestrian standards at all, which are much stricter than US's. But I don't think it'll meet the US's either. If it did, the only way it would is if you called it a certain class level of commercial truck. Which, okay, maybe they'll do that, but wouldn't it be kind of fucked up for this company that's sort of preaching environmentalism and sort of the moral authority to build something that was intentionally heavier to skirt a pedestrian safety regulation? Like, to me, that's like real grimy. And I just think, and again, I may be proven wrong, I don't know everything there is to know about car design. I don't know everything there is to know about engineering. Far from it. But I know a bunch of car designers. And I know a bunch of engineers. And they're all like, nah. and they don't actually have to build it the way they showed it for it to do what it had to do. What it had to do was get a bunch of people excited enough to put down a very low deposit amount so that they could turn around and go to big banks and go, we have a new product with 200,000 orders, pre-orders. Now give us $1 billion. And that's what they did. And that giant loan, and I don't know the exact amount, but it's an enormous amount of money in the 9 figures. That loan is not contingent, or that money is not contingent on building the exact Cybertruck they showed on stage. So they could backwalk that and change anything and build a fairly normal looking vehicle at the end of the day. And they still got their money. They still got their valuation.
Is that, like, if you had to guess, is that what you might think? Is that it is going to end up being a really way more traditional looking truck? Maybe the front's a little more angled, but it's like a Ford on the back.
Yeah. I mean, I think that ultimately if they end up making a pickup truck of some kind, that it will look a lot ultimately like that Rivian R1T pickup truck, which, has a little more.
I don't like the look of that.
I don't like certain elements of it, but I think a pickup truck has got to be a fucking pickup truck. There's only so many people that in reality really want to drive a Total Recall movie prop.
I do so bad.
Elon's only seen 2 movies: Total Recall and Spaceballs. These are the only 2 movies he's ever
I
seen.
fucking love Total Recall. Those calico machine guns they're running around with on Mars. Everything about Total Recall, I fucking love it. I bought a calico machine gun just because they used them in Total Recall.
So
that's awesome.
All right, I want to talk about the Rivian for a second. We skirted right past that. That truck is cool, and I like what they did.
It is cool.
So electric trucks aren't great at some truck things. If you're a landscaping company, and you're pulling a trailer with you everywhere you go, and the thing is completely wind resistant, I guess, the opposite of aerodynamic. So it's got that big tailgate that drags through the air everywhere. The electric truck's probably not the best truck for that job. It's got a lot of weight.
Towing in EVs is bad.
Right. But if you have a truck for some other reason, because you take your mountain bike to the trails all the time, because I have a paramotor, that's an uncommon use case, because you like kayaking or whatever, the Rivian is so perfect for you. These light, large loads, if you're a camper, and Rivian doesn't seem to be pretending that 18 years from now it'll be a clapped out landscaping truck. They're like, no, you're an engineer who plays trail enthusiast on the weekends. Do I have the car for you? And it's perfect for that. And I like that they didn't pretend they were something else, a diesel replacement.
Yeah, but no, it's a light used truck.
Do you like the way these look? Like, I'm just looking at the gallery because I wasn't familiar
that's
with
the problem.
Rivian.
Like all I care about is
especially from the side, it looks just ridiculous.
Oh, it looks awful. That to me looks like a Tacoma on the side from like several years ago. And the front, it looks like
an electric Razor.
It looks like one of those European cars that you don't even know the name of, like with the headlights. You're like, what is that? Oh, it's Pugat Moopy Poo.
Yeah, that's the Alfa Romeo. Who gives a fuck?
I know exactly what you're talking about. You're talking about like a Fiat Multipla or something.
Like something they don't have here.
It's got like 4 small seats, and it's like
super
British
frog
family
looking.
of 9.
It's made for those narrow ass European roads it just has no.
And those narrow ass European people.
Yeah, exactly. That too. All right, I want a man.
No, look, I'm not. I don't need to
large
defend,
man.
Yeah,
I don't know. If you don't like how the
number
Rivian looks, whatever. You don't like how it looks. What can I do? What can I tell you? But I think it's real. The one you can buy. I don't know if you can buy it just yet, but I think pretty soon. I don't know what they're doing with their dealer network. Starting a car company is very, very hard. Okay, and I don't think everything that Tesla does has been bad or wrong. I think one of the reasons they've been so successful during the pandemic is you fucking buy their shit on a website, like everything else. Like everything online ordering is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And so why should buying a car be different? And that is very appealing to a lot of people. I don't think the rest of the car making universe understands quite how much everyone hates their dealers. And so eliminating dealers is really appealing to the general consumer. And also, if you're not that into cars, a Tesla as an extension of your cell phone, I totally get it. I totally get it. Yeah. I absolutely get it.
We had another car person on. What's his name?
Vin Wiki.
Thank you, Vin Wiki. You live in the same circles as
Ed Bolian. I just saw him last week. I just did some stories for him on his show.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
Oh, that's cool. Are they uploaded yet?
I fucking did like 12 of them in 4 or 5 hours. I gave myself a 10-hour layover in Atlanta to go do a bunch of them to promote my new show, which is called Sorted. It's a tuner car shootout. If you're interested in that kind of thing, old school magazine style tuner car shootout. It's on YouTube, but you can find all the episodes at sortedornot.com. New episodes every week. And so I went to go do some things. I did like 12 stories in 4 hours and then went back to the airport and flew home.
Super cool.
So what was Ed saying about what?
He called a Tesla as a car an appliance, right?
Yes,
and
it is.
Somehow that seemed really fitting. Appliances kind of just work, right? They're electric oftentimes. Many of them are just like the other ones.
Mm-hmm. And the best one is always the newest one. There's no nostalgia for an appliance. There's no emotional connection. No one really wants a 2013 Model 3. You know what I mean? They're not going to be collectible. I think they're lovely for what they are, but I think that they are among the world's first truly disposable cars.
Interesting.
Because it's like a PC or a phone. The best ones. Are you guys fucking gaming on Pentiums for fun? Like, nah, you're not. Like, there's no nostalgia for that shit, You're not like, yo, bro, I fucking ironically check out my iPhone 1 I'm using. Fucking fashion statement. No, like
if Apple reintroduced the iPhone 1, it would sell like hotcakes.
Well, as a case, yeah, but not as the
functionality.
Like,
no. Like put the brains
mechanical
of the new
watches, records, old manual transmission cars. These are things you engage with, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you remember the way you engage with them sticks to you. And so you go back 20 years later and you get in that air-cooled car and you smell it and it vibrates in the same way and the shifter goes in the same way and it takes you back. But there's no you're not going to get on your Power PC that you had in 1991 and go, man, I really, as it goes, dials up fucking Prodigy and you're like, oh, it really takes me back. Shit doesn't work.
No, don't answer the phone.
All right, so you've mostly convinced me. Now, if Tesla does release the truck that looks like the truck that they showed, and it has the performance,
that would be fucking sick. My rational brain says to me that this is some hypey movie prop bullshit, and they'll walk it back. And I don't want you to base your car buying decision on that.
Yeah, I hear you. But if it comes out and it looks like that and it performs like they say at the price point that they have at $50,000, if that thing is going 0 to 60 in 3.2 or whatever they said, it's like, all right,
it won't do all those things, by the way. Tesla's one of the things they do is they make all these claims. They go, it's going to do 0 to 60 in 2.5. It's going to go 400 miles. It's going to go this. It's going to cost $50,000. What that means is a version of it will do 2.5. A version of it will do 400 miles.
Mm-hmm.
A version of it will have this whole special thing. A version of it will cost $50,000.
Well, then they're just flat
but it won't
out
be
lying.
one. Yes, that's what they do.
Well, because on their website they have each version. They have each version's price point and then those stats listed for each price point separately.
I hope that's some.
I believe you. I'm not saying that it will do those things. I'm saying that if it does do those things, I'm sold. Because I want to wrap that thing in like it's a Halo fucking Warthog with that like dark green. Put a wrap on that thing and just some black wheels, and that'll be a ride for a few years.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
You were on this show in the summer, or it might have even been a show before that, where you said that the Cybertruck was never going to happen.
I'll stand by that.
Still, no opinion change.
Where the fuck is it? The Ford Mach-E was announced the same day the Cybertruck was. I currently own a Mach-E. It has 7,000 miles on it. Where's the fucking Cybertruck?
That's been one of my criticisms of Elon Musk. Like
that he's completely full of shit.
Well, that he gets one of mine being full of shit, right? If Ford said we're coming out with this thing, and then 3-4 years later there was no hint of it even starting, everyone would be mad at Ford. They would expect them to actually do things they're saying they're going to do.
Yeah.
Elon Musk was selling cars 3 years ago, telling people dude, in a few months, I'm going to have software for this thing that will make it an automated taxi. This car will make money for you. Do you remember that?
Oh yeah.
That's not, that's not close to existing.
No, not even close. I mean, the way he gets past
and it was
is
ridiculous on the surface that was even. I mean, but
fools were buying it thinking it was real.
Yeah,
because this
the
guy
ultimate
was lying.
pre-order.
Yeah,
like getting a car that hasn't been invented yet, and Elon just distracts you
People
with
have
other
given him
promises.
Money for those
done.
Founders Edition Roadsters, 50,000, 200. The car doesn't exist.
Anytime he gets heat, he just launches another rocket, and everybody forgets about like the boring company.
Or fucking comes up with a guy in a robot suit and says we're going to build humanoid walking robots or something ridiculous like that.
That's easier than an electric truck.
Autopilot.
Skip that one. Go right to that.
He's been selling autopilot for like 10 years now. Autopilot isn't in reality isn't too much different than just like adaptive cruise control with lane centering.
It's just not at all.
Yeah. Right. So but he's been selling it as a $5,000 option with this promise that it's going to be more of an autopilot type thing.
Yeah.
Cars have worn out, right? Cars are like
people who got that option have returned their leases. You know what I mean? They never got anything for it. Yeah. He is the ultimate marketer. I mean, he literally sells things that don't exist. I mean, and people buy them, and then people invest in his company for it, and then his company is the most valuable car company in the world for some reason.
He's the richest man to have ever lived. Steve Jobs had what they called a reality distortion field, right? And he would go up there and he would say, "This new phone is magical. This new phone is crazy. Like it's going to change your life."
Right.
And you'd be like, "Oh my God, I want it so much." And then afterwards, it's like, "Oh, okay." Like when he said my finger was the best pointing device to have ever existed, maybe. I mean, but I bought it during the show, and now afterwards, I'm not sure he's right, but it's fine. Elon Musk is selling shit that hasn't happened,
that literally doesn't exist. I mean, Steve Jobs was a great marketer, and he might have been hyperbolic about certain things, as many great marketers are, but he fundamentally didn't take your money for a product that doesn't exist. I mean, you gave him money, you got an iPhone. You know what I mean? It wasn't if you give me money now, I might have a phone for you in 7 years. It's
literally 7 years.
And the Cybertruck, if you know a little bit about cars, not a lot, but a little bit,
your bar's too high.
You can look at that prototype, which is a straight up movie prop, and you go, you can't fucking build that. You just like common sense just dictates that you can't build something that looks like that and sell it.
Again, the bar is too high. Why is that common sense?
So, and that to me is
serious.
The hucksterism part of it. But where I really get offended is the release of beta software to untrained people on public roads. The full self-driving beta, which there's tons of videos of it out on YouTube acting wonky as shit. Other companies, Argo AI, Cruise, Waymo, are testing autonomous vehicles, and they're using multiple redundant systems, cameras, radar, LiDAR, backup, and the people who drive those test vehicles are trained. They go through a very, very rigorous certification process, and the single digits of people pass those programs, 4 or 5%. They're engineers. Their literal job is just to monitor these systems, and they're insured by commercial insurance policies. There was one fatality in that the Uber self-driving experiment, and the whole fucking program was canceled. The whole program. And Elaine Hellsberg, the person who died, her family won an enormous judgment from Uber, enormous settlement.
Tell me if I'm wrong. Oh, I'm sorry. Did you?
No, it's okay.
Tell me if I'm wrong when I say this. I kind of like that Elon compares his software to actual people instead of perfection. There's a bit of a nirvana fallacy where you say, hey, this thing has one accident every 100 million miles. It's not ready. Whereas people have one accident every million miles.
Well, there's a couple things to that. One is Elon's data is cherry picked and not entirely accurate. The data he's using to compare his software is to compare it to all cars on the road today, the average car on the road today is 12 years old. There is no such thing as a 12-year-old Tesla Model S. It doesn't exist. That car came out in 2012. So if he only compares his data to cars that have ADAS, adaptive advanced driver safety systems, the data is not nearly as complementary towards them. So it's a selective data. Plus, if you're talking about humans have to be forgiven for their mistakes because they're human, right? They're human. But to sell a piece of software and then say you human are responsible for the behavior of this software, which that's what they're doing, right? If a Tesla running full self-driving beta runs over a person, it's the human who bought and insured that car who is financially responsible. So what he's doing is reaping the benefits and outsourcing the risks, which is incredibly dangerous. Like I was saying about the other companies doing AV research, they're assuming the risks. Their cars are commercially insured, operated by paid and trained test drivers. Tesla's just selling this shit to fucking regular old people.
Sounds like he's found a real loophole here to get his R&D done cheap as hell.
I mean,
I'm hanging on your every word, but I'm not convinced. Like, you're being heard, but I still love the idea of, like, we're not going to make progress if we don't try it. And
well, maybe, but other people are trying it more ethically, right? You know, you can Argo, Cruise, Waymo, they're trying it, but they're doing it in a safe and incremental way. I believe that you have to break a few eggs to make an omelet is not true when it comes to testing self-driving cars on public roads, because I haven't opted into the beta. I'm there on my motorcycle. I have not opted into that beta. I didn't sign the waiver. So the person using that system signs the waiver and opts into the beta, but they're on a road with everybody else. You know, the other people that are at risk, you know, these Teslas have crashed into 12 parked emergency vehicles responding to accidents that have had their lights flashing. If this software cannot at a basic level not slam into a parked police car or fire truck or ambulance, I would say this is not ready to be sold to the public.
Yeah, for sure.
But,
you know,
again, I just want to know how many times per mile that happens compared to regular drivers.
I don't think that's a fair metric. Because the regular driver is not necessarily optimized. Right. We could have better training. We could have better certification. We could have more rigorous safety standards for our cars that could improve what the average driver is. And we don't need new technology for that. We don't need to invent some new thing for that. We could have that now if it was actually a priority. And so what is the average driver, and is the average driver optimized? Yeah,
I almost got into an accident today. It was partly my fault. I'll let you judge. I'll lay it out there. So I'm on the highway. It's an interstate, and I'm in the second to right lane. The right lane becomes a turn-only lane. There's a car there, just sort of forward and to my side, that, in my opinion, is giving every indication that he's going to make that turn. Right? He's on that lane. He's taking the exit. Okay. It looks that way to me. The line changes from dotted to solid, you know, as they do before the exit. It changes from solid to that triangle that happens. And then he decides he doesn't want to take the exit. And he goes across the like double white line triangle that's happening and into my lane. I, being an imperfect driver, kind of freak out and steer left into the lane that, you know, to like make room for him. And then there was a guy there sort of behind me, maybe in my blind spot. Then he's the hero in this story who spotted my asshole driving, got out of my way, and there was no accident.
Sure.
Now, on the surface of it, you'd think it was like maybe totally that guy's fault. But the thing is, I did change the song right around that time. Maybe a more perfect version of me would have like saw it unfold a little more smoothly and reacted a little more perfectly. But it was like, oh fuck, that guy's coming across this double white line well after you'd think you would. And I kind of panic steered, and like I said, the other guy was the hero in the story.
What song were you switching to?
I don't know. The one was too slow, and I wanted something a little more upbeat.
So here's the thing. In my opinion, if we could jump right from where we are now, which is humans driving cars, to input destination and take a nap. If we could do that, that would be one thing, right? In order to do that, we'd have to redesign our roads. We'd have to pretty much ban all human-driven cars so that all cars could communicate with each other wirelessly, right? Because you need the car needs to actually be able to communicate with the other car, not just see it.
Can you imagine how efficient traffic would be?
It would be. I mean, it would be. We would be trading things away from our traffic.
I wish
but
I
if we could do
I
that,
think
that
Elon's car
thing.
deals with my situation better than me. It would not have stopped paying attention.
Well, I disagree with that.
Okay.
I think that in certain so what I advocate for is not a car where the human is responsible for babysitting a computer, which is what Elon's car is. Computer does some driving tasks, and you, the human, are responsible for taking over in an emergency situation. Humans are really bad at babysitting machines. Really, really bad at it. Humans are actually really good at driving. I know it doesn't seem like that because people die on the roads, and you can point to fatalities and you can point to accidents. And oh, by the way, you didn't get into an accident. Okay. Maybe it wasn't because you didn't make a mistake or the other person didn't make a mistake, but a human solved that problem and an accident was avoided. Okay. And humans can be distracted by the radio or by their phone or by their kids in the back seat. But fundamentally, a trained human paying attention is a very good driver and will get to their destination 99.9999% of the time. An average human, gets a ticket for an infraction like once every 5 years, gets into an accident once every 30 years. It's really not common. So it's a very, average human does a lot of driving. So we think anecdotally that humans are not good drivers, but by and large, they really are.
I mean, I've always thought that, because it's like, think about how long you're doing it. And
I know.
Like we just accept
to not die.
We just accept that the roadways are the way they are. But like so many times, even as a kid and even today, like as an adult, I'll be like, man, they just got that soccer mom going 80 miles an hour coming right at me. Yeah. And if I reached out far enough, I could touch her.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
we drive really close together, really fast in opposite directions.
It's insane that we do that.
If you want to see what it could be, watch the Top Gears where they go to India.
Yeah.
They just India. 5 times as many people as here. They totally are, I guess, all against lines in the road. Yeah. It's just big amounts of pavement, and everyone's doing whatever they think is okay at the moment.
Yeah.
Like
there's studies actually that show that fewer road markings actually improve driver safety. Like they have fewer fatalities per capita in Vietnam than they do fucking here, and they have those schools of fish scooters kind of thing going on. But what I'm getting at is, if rather than going for this full autonomy thing, what if we designed a parallel autonomy system where the human drove the car, but the computers babysat the human? And basically, you still had to drive, but your car became fundamentally uncrashable. That is what I advocate for. And we can use, by repositioning our priorities and not trying to sell an autonomous vehicle that will drive for you, we could try to sell a car that will look over your shoulder and be very aware of your blind spot when you went to go merge and maybe take an evasive action on your behalf, or give you better warnings that this guy is going to come across. And we call this parallel autonomy as opposed to series autonomy, which is you press a button and the car drives for you.
That's an interesting idea.
And so I advocate for that, which would actually improve road safety.
Yeah, but I don't want to be safe. I want to be cool.
Well, Kyle, that is what Elon Musk is selling. He's selling
Kyle's buying.
coolness under a pretense of he's
I like
cherry
pretense.
picking data to make cool sound safe.
I like
when
cherries.
actually it's not that safe.
A lot of wins here. So you said something that triggered a thought in my head that
Triggered.
people are bad at babysitting machines,
Mhm.
and it's because of the TSA. They watch luggage come through, and they're
Yes,
looking for
great
knives and
example.
guns. They're looking for knives and guns, and they're terrible at it.
Great
Because
example.
99.999% of the time, there's no knife and there's no gun in that bag. So the bag just goes through. They get the right answer all the time, but just pushing the bag
100%
through.
true. Yes.
And then every once in a blue moon, some guy has a knife or a gun on it. Might even be a test, right? It might be a fellow, it might be a coworker who's trying to see if they're paying attention. And the reason they miss them so much is that you get lulled into a sense of the right action is to ignore it.
yeah.
So when a car gets things right 99.9% of the time, people aren't going to catch the mistake because of that
Yeah.
same.
Did you see the guy?
And
who,
here's what's interesting about 99.9. 99.9 is a number that sounds really good. But in the context of your car driving you somewhere, it's fucking terrible. Imagine if you got into an accident 1 out of 1,000 trips. If you get in your car 1,000 times, so how many times you get in your car 3 times a day, right? 3 times a day means once a year you're getting into a crash. That's fucking terrible. You're an awful driver. You know what I mean? So
Very true.
you need to be orders of magnitude better than that in order
That
to
happens.
be a
That
decent
same
driver.
thought process happens in aviation a lot. They're like,
Yeah.
99% of the time you'll be fine.
That's horrible.
99% of the time, aviation is okay. Is not very good at all.
Yeah.
You need to
That's
be
awful.
like-
That's
yeah.
a terrible
you
ratio.
couldn't
really
keep up with
bad.
manufacturing of airplanes if that were the
Yeah.
case. They'd just be dropping out of the sky every day.
Yeah. So you know, there's I read Argo AI, which is an autonomous vehicle research firm. I read their safety briefing. It's like 50 pages, and you should give me a medal for reading that. And and the section on here's how we hire people, and here's our process of the people we hire, and it is exhaustive. They have a 12-week training program. They have all these different levels of testing. They have classroom. They have driving tests. They make them monitor the cars on a closed course and all this kinds of shit. And then at the end of this, only 4 to 6% of them actually get the job. And when they're out there driving those cars around or babysitting these cars as they drive themselves around, they are covered under an Argo AI insurance policy where if this car crashes into you, the company is responsible for it. You know, that Tesla doesn't do that.
That shows a lot more confidence in their system.
Well, it shows that they're taking responsibility for the liability and not just the upside, not just the fanfare, you know? And so in my opinion, to improve safety, you have to improve safety each step of the way. You don't get to say Machiavelli style, oh yeah, well we're gonna have some fucking crashes, but this is for the greater good.
Again,
I don't really buy
aim
that.
too high, Machiavelli style. So that's like Italian accent.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the Tupac version of Italian history. So, you know, and especially because, like I said before, not everybody that you're sharing the road with has bought into the beta. You know what I mean? We didn't all agree that it was kosher to fucking hands off this bitch and send it. You know, I certainly didn't agree to it. And you know, the right to swing your fists ends at my nose, right?
Yeah.
So that's my opinion on Tesla semi-autonomous systems.
It doesn't have to do with the Tesla autonomous thing, but like when we were looking at the pictures of the Cybertruck, like it seems like almost structurally, you're like, no, structurally that's impossible. They can't make something like.
Well, he
what
talked about an
jumps out at you?
exoskeleton. I've talked to multiple material science engineers who are like, you can't fucking build that. Like that doesn't. What's
like the limiting factor?
How is it different than unibody? Well, he's saying he's literally saying the structure is the outside. A unibody has a real underneath structure to it. And I'm not an engineer, but I just don't think that works. And he's the kind of person who would throw some shit at the wall and then tell the engineers to go figure it out later. I mean, you know, and not that strategy has worked sometimes in the past. I mean, they've ended up with some interesting, sometimes successes by doing that. They've also ended up with some fucking horrible failures, like the Falcon wing doors on the Model X. And other
There's
stuff
a thing
like
in
that.
Tesla culture, Elon culture, where they just say everything's easy. Oh,
yes, it is.
self-driving is an easy problem to
Yeah.
solve. Self-landing rockets, that's incredibly simple. Everything's incredibly simple and no challenge for them.
When you're surrounded by yes men, and when people are financially invested in agreeing that the emperor is in fact wearing clothes, that's plus plus people want to believe. People have seen
it's fun.
future movies, and they want to believe that by investing in this and buying into it, that's how we get to those future movies.
It just, devil's advocate, there's not a lot of money to be made in shorting Tesla stock.
Look, I mean, unfortunately, for me, who is an advocate of safety and who does not buy or sell any automotive stocks, I don't like to talk about the stock, because I think the price of the stock is not a good indicator of whether or not a company is doing good for the world. I mean, you could have probably people have made a lot of money on Tesla stock. And so if someone is out there with a purely financial motivation who invested in Tesla because they thought they could make money, that's cynical, but I can't be too mad at that. But I think there's people who will not say that the emperor has no clothes when the emperor has no clothes, because they're financially incentivized to fucking shut up about it because they're making money.
I wish people saw it the same way I did. Like, here's what Elon has actually done. He has rockets that land sometimes, and he's made a Model 3.
Yeah.
All the shit about the Boring Company. All the shit
God,
about
the
those
tunnel in
solar
Vegas.
roofs. Those solar roofs. Do you remember how great that was going to be? I bought into it.
Yeah.
I thought I was like, yeah, this guy's incredible. He makes giga factories. I don't know how they're different than other factories, but they're giga.
Means they're big. They're giant. They're huge.
This guy makes these amazing batteries that I guess are better than other batteries. I think
He buys them from Panasonic. His batteries are Panasonic batteries.
I know
Panasonic. That's reliable. They're a no name in batteries.
Man, in 1985 stereo systems, there was nothing like a Panasonic.
I want to say that maybe he's making his own batteries now, or at least partly.
They've just started to, but the cars aren't using them yet.
Okay, but yeah, apparently he thinks he can make a better battery, and it somehow with that I was like, well, if he make good batteries, then he'll make great solar roofs, and you can't get them. You can't get them. Everyone's unhappy.
I mean, look, I will give this man credit where I believe it is due. He made electric cars cool, right? Before Tesla, electric cars were not very cool.
But they don't look cool.
And he built one that looked like an Aston Martin and went really fast, and it had an innovative cell phone-like interface. And now other companies have realized that is in fact what some people want out of their car. And so that has moved that industry forward by a lot. So he gets credit for that shit. I'll give him that. And the rockets are pretty cool. I'll give him the fucking rockets. The rockets.
He made mom cars that go 0 to 60 in 3 seconds.
Yeah. He didn't invent landing rockets. They had landing rockets before. But landing rockets are cool. So God bless landing rockets. But there's a lot of utter horse shit that comes out of his mouth also, and so I really try to take a look at what is the reality of the situation regarding that company as opposed to the fantasy of it.
I think at one point this was on the show years ago, we were talking about the solar roof thing, and like it was like not a Tesla pushed article. It probably was Tesla pushed. It was on some like tech mag. Yeah. And like at the bottom, I think we all realized like at the current price point they had them set for, it's like, oh, so like my children's children could see savings. Like no, we're gonna need to get this a lot closer to like the commodity brand before anyone can jump into this. Because like at the point it was a few years ago, I remember it being like, oh, this is like something that Leonardo DiCaprio could do for the lark in one of his mansions, like a little fun project for him. Like he doesn't care about that amount of money.
And what we have now is other manufacturers that are better at making cars, you know, actually assembling cars, are building some cool shit. You know, I've got the Ford Mach-E, which is basically like a Ford Model Y that's assembled properly. I've got you know, I've the Taycans, the Porsches are incredible. Audi has this the e-tron line. I'm driving the Lucid in a couple weeks. The Lucid is the CEO is Peter Rawlinson, who was a high up at Tesla before leaving to go to start his own company. The Lucid is 1,100 fucking horsepower, by the way.
Is that a real horsepower? Because sometimes those electric horsepower are bullshit.
No, it's not. I know what you're talking about, where they just like add up in a really weird way. No, this actually is.
It feels like a car with only one gear, and that gear is fourth.
Yeah,
you know, like
well, the Porsches and the Audis have a 2-speed transmission. But the other ones are all single speed. Yeah.
So what about the Rivian? That has.
I haven't driven one yet. It looks cool.
You want the grill, don't you?
The Rivian grill?
No.
Oh, you mean the kitchen? The pull out kitchen?
Pull out kitchen.
People
Zach,
are into that
find
shit.
A picture of the Rivian with the grill pull out?
Like, so
it's pretty dope.
I think the Rivian's kind of an unattractive truck. I don't know. It doesn't look nice to me. I don't like the look of the interior is fine, but the exterior is something about it.
I don't think it's great looking.
No,
it's all right.
I don't know. It reminds me of an old Nissan or Toyota or something. But
hard body, baby. Yeah.
But when I saw them pull that fucking kitchen out, and it's got like the conduction stove or whatever.
Shit. Induction burners.
I said conduction.
Yeah.
Induction. Yeah.
That photo is from when some of my friends at Motor Trend drove these fucking things across the country off road.
Oh, that's neat.
So these Rivians are really what's really neat about electric trucks is that when you have basically an unlimited amount of programming you can do with these differentials. You know, that's not a mechanical link anymore. So you can do torque vectoring and brake vectoring and you can have them do like tank turns where they brake the inside wheels and overdrive the outside wheels and have really cool articulations, and they can do some.
Oh, that would
really
be cool
stuff.
if you could do like a just sit in place kind of thing where the left tires go reverse and really.
Have you seen the new electric Hummer that can crab walk?
I didn't know they still made Hummers.
They just brought it back. Have you not seen
they're making
the new
a 6-digit Hummer?
No.
Yeah.
It's fucking so. I mean, it's neat, but it's also like, are we going to save the world with a 9,000-pound, electric Hummer?
It's $100,000.
Yeah, it's expensive.
I had a rock crawling buggy.
Yeah,
and you could use any brake you wanted.
Yeah,
so
independent braking.
You put it in 4-wheel drive. You'd lock like the back right brake, and the other 3 tires would go, and it didn't exactly pivot on the locked brake, but close.
You know what? Actually, what gas vehicle has that is the new Bronco. The new Ford Bronco has this off-road tight turning thing, and you activate it, and then whichever way you turn the wheel, it locks up that inside wheel, and you can really pivot in a very tight radius. It's cool. But if you Google new Hummer crab walking, that'll give you an image because it has totally independent front and rear steering, and you can literally make it crab walk, which is actually pretty fucking cool.
That is neat.
It's I'm sure that thing will be really good off road, but just like Americans are not really capable of handling these really, really fast EVs. Like this is a truck that does 0 to 60 in, it's like fucking 9,000 pounds, and it does 0 to 60 in 4 seconds.
It's a missile.
That's dangerous.
Yeah. That's a rendering, but there are photos of it actually doing it, like on the highway.
It exists because it's not Tesla.
Like
it does exist, and more importantly, GM hasn't actually taken money for it yet because it's not ready to fucking go. So
one of these assault trucks. What are they gonna? As soon as someone uses one of them in an act of terror, we're gonna need some legislation to. Slow you guys down
over fucking parades.
You take the new Hummer through a parade. You don't stop.
Dude, I didn't know how impressive the crab walk thing would be, but the compilation I got is literally just a guy in slow moving traffic, crab walking, like bullying the lanes next to him into moving because it's a Hummer.
You thought it wasn't a Hummer? Oh no, it's still a Hummer.
No, everybody else is like, that's neat, but please stay in your lane.
It might be electric.
I'm in an '89 Civic.
I feel like as a driver, I might not. You know how like you see the wheel turn and it like I'm accustomed to the warning signs that a car is changing lanes. If a car crab walks, does it mess with me? Like, I wonder.
I mean, I'm sure at some point you've seen a car go down the highway with like completely fucked rear alignment. You know, and it's like it's kind of doing that on accident. You know,
I
and
saw
it's
a
really
truck with its
disconcerting.
frame broken in the middle, and it was just kind of like behind the cab. Like
When they
dipping.
first came out with the Raptor like 10 years ago, and people really started hucking them off of jumps and shit, and they'd really banana the middle of them.
That's funny.
Dude, I love that video so much.
I know the one.
It's from like 7-8 years ago, and it's that Yahoo taking his Raptor off a big boy jump. It's like a BMX jump. Like,
Is that the one where all the airbags go off when he lands?
Yeah.
I love that.
He lands this like $75,000 truck, and it just goes poof.
There's a dude who makes YouTube videos who did that with the new Ram TRX, which is their version of the Raptor with the Hellcat motor in it, and he landed it and he fucking blew the whole he blew the whole thing out. He fucked it all up.
My friend just bought a new Dodge truck with you know like whatever the top of the line one is. It's not the TRX thing, and like all the accessories. And I was like,
a
that's
Power Wagon by chance?
I don't know. It's scum.
Okay.
The Power Wagon branding is hilarious, but go on.
I was like, it's a pretty expensive truck, huh? He's like, yeah. I was like, how much would those run you these days? He's like, $90,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just had the TRX press car last week, and it's so ridiculous, and it was 95 grand. It was crazy.
$90,000 truck.
Wow.
This is a 700 horsepower pickup truck that is the width of an H1 Hummer. It cost $95,000, and I had it for a week, and my cumulative fuel economy was 8.7. This is the most antisocial, like offensive truck.